We are Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, Max Barr of Southeastern 14 here to preview SEC basketball games for Tuesday night, January the 16th. We will be breaking down and predicting the outcomes of 4 games: Florida at Tennessee, Missouri at Alabama, Georgia at South Carolina, and Texas A&M at Arkansas. We'll do these in order of tip-off. A reminder, these previews and predictions presented to you by BetOnline. The NFL playoffs are here. The NBA season is in full swing. BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores, with additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile. You can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get in on the action, see all the updated odds. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE, that is BLEAV, to get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. We will start in Knoxville, where the Volunteers of Tennessee will host Florida. We will give you estimated lines, although those differ sometimes by 2 or 3 points between what this model says and what you actually see. We're doing this Monday morning, so we don't have the actual lines. But if you average BPI, Bart Torvik, Ken Pomeroy, the Vols would be about 10.5-point favorites with an 82% chance to win. We like both of these teams, but boy, the Vols are awfully tough to beat in Knoxville. They are the better of these two defensive teams. Blake, I'll start with you. What are you watching for in Florida and Tennessee?
I am watching for the same thing I always watch for anytime anyone travels to Knoxville, Tennessee. And that is, handling not just the environment, tough place to play, but just how far out does Florida start their offense on Tuesday? I think that's always the question for me. And like we said, Florida's a good offensive team. They rebound the ball well. And yeah, that's going to all be put to the test against this Tennessee team because they are just, again, so good defensively, especially at home. When you look at the numbers and I know opponents are a little different, but they just played really well at home, like most teams do, right? And so, I think it's a big challenge for this Florida team because keep going back to the same theme. I just want to see Florida win a big game like this. And to this point of the season, outside of the Michigan game, just the way that game played out, they've struggled to do that. And so it's a huge opportunity, but again, it's the same thing. It's just trying to figure out how they're going to attack this Tennessee team because defensively they are a team that just makes it so hard on you, especially in that building.
Yeah, I have written down Knoxville as a fortress.
Yeah.
That's just how it's been lately. I think the individual matchup at the point guard position is going to be phenomenal. Like, tune in just for that matchup between Zakai Ziegler and Zion Poland, because Ziegler's probably been arguably the best point guard defender in the conference so far, and Zion Poland has the best assist to turnover ratio. So, it's strength on strength there. I think that's going to be a wonderful matchup. In 3 SEC games, Tennessee's allowing almost 40% from 3. So, if there's a team that can take advantage of that, it's Florida, but we didn't see Ole Miss really carry those shooting numbers into Knoxville either, So Florida's going to have to defend the paint better because we've seen how aggressive Connect can get when he's, turns on that switch. But you also have Riley Kugel, who's found some new confidence. I actually saw a picture of him just hugging Todd Golden after last game. I think you can just tell how maybe mentally stressful this has been for Kugel. He went through a hard slump. I think he's finally broke out of it, and no better game to break out of it than right before you have a really tough one on the road. So I think a lot of people are going to completely count Florida out of this one, but I think they have some pieces that they can kind of battle here. I think this is going to be interesting.
Guys, 2 things I'll look at. Not that you get a lot of easy buckets against the Vols, but you kind of need some if you're going to beat them in that building. Tennessee holds opponents to 43% 2-point shooting. That's the 9th best in the country. In Florida, points don't come much easier than foul shots. Florida shooting 66% from the line. That is 329 in the country, 321. Those are 2 things that look, it is hard for anybody, anywhere, anytime to come in and beat the Vols in Knoxville. But those are two things, Max, that I don't think bode well for chances of a Florida upset.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the odds are stacked against Florida here. It's going to be a multiple possession spread. We haven't seen the interior defense needed to beat a team like Tennessee. I think it's just going to come down to, can Florida make their outside shots? Because we've seen Tennessee, they've given up some. I mean, Hubbard got, or not, Hubbard. Yeah, Hubbard got what, 5 threes? Yeah, 5 threes. So I mean, we've seen teams be able to make shots against this defense, and Florida's got plenty of weapons. So I think it's going to come down to shot making. And Blake, I like how you brought up how far out are they going to start their offense, because that's going to play a big role in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking back at it now. Ole Miss shot 38% from 3, but only hit 6. Norfolk State shot.
Some of those were tough.
Yeah, they were. Norfolk State, again, I'm just going through Tennessee's home games, all right? Norfolk State, 2 of 9 for 22%. Tarleton State, 2 of 22 for 9%. Georgia Southern, 8 of 32 for 25%. Illinois, 9 of 36 for 25%.
That was Illinois with Terrence Shannon.
Yep.
Wofford, 10 of 37 for 27%.
Jeez.
Tennessee Tech, 2 of 12 for 17%.
That is
so. That's why you're not even going to have to ask, Chris. I'm picking Tennessee to win this game.
Whew.
I think Florida's going to struggle to find those kind of shots they want in Thompson Bowling Arena, because everything tells me that everyone else has too. And so because of that, actually, there's one I forgot. I apologize. George Mason was the outlier. They went 11 of 24 for 44%. But that's the only team that is shot even a respectable number against Tennessee in terms of like both quantity and percentage. So yeah, I think it's going to be a big challenge.
Get to the picks here, Chris. What do you got?
Yeah, picks. Well, look, like I said, these line models we put out to try to guess what the line's going to be when we don't have it. I mean, again, sometimes they're a few points off. I think this one is probably going to be, in fact, it might even be a point or two under 10.5. Man, it's tough for anybody to stay close in that building. I just don't like the matchup here for Florida. Look, the Gators have got offensive firepower. They're versatile. They've got guys like Will Richard who are efficient shooters. We've talked about Riley Kugel, how it's bound to get better at some point. We love Zion Pullen, Tyrese Samuel. This is a good roster. But Tennessee's old. It's experienced. It is going to play physically, which is usually going to go your way when you're on your home floor. I think what Blake said was key. You have to start your offense so far out. Nothing is easy for you. I would be really surprised if Florida went in and pulled the upset. So give me the Vols here. Blake?
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm picking Tennessee.
Yeah, you said.
I mean, Florida's got one big win so far in the past 2 years. One, and that was beating Tennessee in Gainesville. Like, I mean, realistically, and I want to see them win a game like this before I can possibly pick them to do it, because I haven't seen them consistently beat good teams over the past couple of years. I mean, even not even consistently is the right word. Like, Tennessee is the outlier. They beat Tennessee at home on February 1st last year, 67-54. Other than that, like, you look at some of their wins, they just have not beaten a lot of like elite teams in several seasons, it seems like. So that's my only problem in picking Florida here. I don't know how I could do that.
Yeah, from now on, I am dubbing TBA as the Fortress, and I will not be picking against the Vols when they play at the Fortress. Give me the Vols.
Okay, that one, again, 6 Central, that's on ESPN. This one also at 6 Central, it's on the SEC Network. Alabama, according to an average BPI, Torvik and Pomeroy, a 19.5-point favorite with a 95% probability victory. That's a high number. I would bet it's a couple points lower than that.
Yeah.
Because it's just hard to beat any SEC team by that many points. And maybe not when you're Alabama. Look, Alabama's a computer darling. The scoring has started to slow down a little bit, but I think Alabama's still the number one offensive efficiency team in the country. Look, let me cut to the chase on this one. And we talked about this in the power rankings. This is just not the same Missouri team. You don't have a Kobe Brown or a Demoy Hodge. I mean, Sean East has had a nice season. He's not going to be a go in there and get you 35 points and find a couple of guys that can get you 15 type guys. That might be exaggerating it a little bit, but that's what it's going to take to beat Alabama with all its weapons. And I'll turn it over to our resident Alabama hype man, Blake Lovell, for his take on this.
How things change. I was the Missouri hype man last year. I'm just going to be completely honest.
This has got to be conflicting for you. I mean, this has got to be
tough.
Yeah, are you okay, Blake?
We just we've taken the year off, Dennis Gates. I told him, I said, look, let's just make sure we rebuild the roster, for next season, and we're on track to do that, so it's okay. But I think if you had to draw up a team that feels like one of the worst possible matchups for Missouri, it is Alabama in every single way, in my opinion. Maybe outside of Alabama, defensively at times, still having a few lapses, but they're getting better there. Alabama can score points in bunches. Missouri cannot. I mean, they're struggling to do that, right? Like they're not the same scoring team they were last year. Missouri gives up a lot of offensive rebounds. Alabama can get extra opportunities here. I just again, but look, I will say this. I said some similar things about the Kentucky matchup for Missouri, and they went to Rupp and had a very, I think, respectable performance. Wound up being 13, but remember that game's closer than that. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I feel like this is kind of even more to the extreme. I feel like Alabama is an even worse matchup than Kentucky was for a team like Missouri, because again, my fear is for Missouri, Alabama comes out and it's 8 threes at halftime or whatever, 10 threes at halftime, which we've seen them do before. I don't know how Missouri keeps up offensively. I just don't know how they do it. And maybe, again, it does maybe there's a similar setup to like the Kentucky game where they do have a kind of performance that keeps them right there with an opportunity to make it interesting. But again, that's where, you talk about room for error. Kentucky didn't shoot the ball well in that game against Missouri. There's no reason for me to believe Alabama won't shoot the ball well here. Like they just do it time and time again. And so I think that unless you get the same kind of, in that Kentucky game, Sean East had 19, Carter had 20, Bates had 18, Honor had 8, and that was about it. Like you've got to have everybody. You got to have at least three guys that are almost hitting 20 points, I think, for Missouri. Like they're just, because the scoring consistency hasn't been there elsewhere. So I just hate the matchup for Missouri. But I mean, that's nothing new because, again, I hated the matchup at Kentucky. They played okay there. I just think this one's a little more extreme in terms of the things Alabama can do to exploit their weaknesses.
Yeah, I'm expecting a spread like mid-teens, somewhere between like 13 and 16 probably, favoring Alabama. Blake, you pretty much nailed it. I don't have much to add. The only thing I have to add is it's not in favor of Missouri is, how are you going to be emotionally after kind of blowing a game? You're up by 5 with 2 minutes left and you end up losing in overtime at home in a game that you needed. And now you got to go on the road 2 days later. Oh, that's brutal. That is brutal. So not only is it a tough matchup, but emotionally you got to pick yourself back up. I mean, that's tough to do. So if you're looking at this game, you are going to need the most perfect performance possible from Missouri and a tough one for Alabama for Missouri to come out of this one. Like you need a lot of things to happen in Missouri's favor. So yeah, I mean, there's not much we can say on this one. It's a brutal matchup.
Yeah, we're all going to Alabama here, right? And
yep.
I don't think there's any need.
Well, I think that's
don't you dare.
No.
Sorry, I can't do I can't do it on this one. Alabama it is.
I will mention one thing. Alabama's got to go to Tennessee next. And Blake did make some good points about Missouri hanging tight with Kentucky. So I don't know if there's any look ahead in this for the Crimson Tide that maybe makes it a little closer than we think, but even then, I can't see it. So with that,
I would find it hard to bet Alabama in this game because I think there are way more variety of outcomes here. Like if Missouri shoots the ball well, like they could play this close, knowing that Alabama plays Tennessee after that. The look ahead game, the little letdown after a big road win. We see this all the time. At the same time, look, I've also seen games where Alabama runs people out of the gym by 30 or more points, almost like they did to South Carolina. I'm not saying it's going to happen here, but if you're talking worst case scenario for Missouri, like it can happen with this matchup. So that's all I'm saying.
On ESPNU at 8 Central, Georgia visits South Carolina. I think this is interesting. South Carolina is pretty much a consensus 4-point favorite to 4.5 across all three of the predictive models we looked at. Averages out at 4.1. South Carolina, a 66% chance to win. Max, I'll start with you. Georgia came off a bitterly disappointing loss where it had Tennessee right there and just couldn't finish. I thought the Dogs looked really good in that one. South Carolina under Lamont Paris has just been so consistent, except for that one bad game, which can happen to anybody. I can't wait to see these two teams face off in a game that I think is more interesting than we would have thought 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah. I think this is, for me at least, for me personally, I think if, maybe if we get a close one at the 6 p.m. slate, maybe that'll take it. But for me, this is, game of the day. I think it's got going to be the most competitive. It's going to be the closest on paper. How are UGA's emotions after blowing that double-digit lead? Can they bounce back, or is there kind of a crack in the armor now? I think both teams are kind of coming off of performances where they wish they played a little bit better. South Carolina sneaks out with an OT win. Lamont Paris couldn't even play Michie Johnson down the stretch. He had such a bad game. So I think you have both teams that are kind of in a bounce back spot here. UGA is shooting 40% from three. Is that going to hold up? I think we're going to see that, come back to the means a little bit. But also South Carolina is first in the conference in defensive free throw rate. They have not been putting teams on the line, been defending without fouling. So that's another plus at home. Man, this is a tough one to get a read on. Do you see anything here concrete, Blake?
No, because I don't think there's anything concrete with either of these teams. I think they're both, again, pretty good, but I just think it's, they're still not to that elite level. So so I think that's why it's easy to look at some of these things and be like, oh yeah, well, okay. But like you're saying, but like so many times,
Yeah.
like, well, they do that. Okay. But that's, so I don't know. It's like, if you use the Ken Palm method, it's like, okay, one team will have green in one area, the other team has red. Okay. Then there's more green here and more red there. But it's just, yeah, these two are, I don't know. It's like they're made for each other kind of in this, kind of setting in this game, because again, these are two programs that have, been near the bottom of the SEC in recent years, and they're both starting to kind of claw their way up. And yeah, like this is one where it's like, hey, Georgia shoots the three well. Great. South Carolina doesn't defend it that well. Well, Georgia's terrible from two. South Carolina's great defending the two. Like you just keep going down at all these matchups, and they do feel pretty even here. In terms of where they are. So like this is one I have circled. Like I don't have a lot that separates what either of these teams could just completely exploit one area or the other. I just don't see that with either one of these teams. We've said Georgia's defense is a bit better than people have given it credit for. And in all honesty, I thought they played fine against Tennessee. They just got Dalton connected,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it came down to. So do I see anyone on Georgia having that kind of performance? I mean, anyone on South Carolina? Probably not just from like one person, because it's going to be spread out over, several guys, but that may be the only thing is, I don't know. How does Georgia defend against the South Carolina team that, as we keep saying, seems to have several options? They're not the most overpowering offensive team, but they just got so many options, and they're, defensively, they're doing enough. in certain areas to make it work. I guess the one thing I will say, Georgia it's wild to see. They're only getting 42.8% of their points from two, which is like bottom 15 in the nation. So because they're so reliant on threes and free throws, when you go on the road, to me, those are the two most unpredictable aspects of your offense, is how you shoot the three and how many free throw attempts you get. So for that reason, I feel like I would probably lean this thing in South Carolina's favor a little bit. But, like we said, though, Georgia, they just had their winning streak snapped, but, man, they didn't play bad at all. They should have won the game. And so they're still coming in with some confidence, but what does that Tennessee loss do to you if you go on the road now for South Carolina and Kentucky? Brutal stretch. So
You're muted, Chris.
All right, we'll do picks. I'll start with mine. I've got the little points above average model I keep across several computers. Georgia is about 6.7 points above average for college basketball. South Carolina about 7.5. So put these teams on a neutral floor, it's less than a 1-point game. When in doubt in an evenly matched game, I almost always go the home team unless I have a reason not to. I thought our man Blake just did a terrific job of giving you a reason that supports, in addition to South Carolina being the home team. I think that the points distribution is interesting. So give me the Gamecocks. Blake?
Yep. Going Gamecocks here.
I hate to do this, but I'm taking South Carolina also.
Oh boy.
Chris, I like how you said on a neutral floor it's a 1-point game. So then, I'm gonna take the safe road and take the home team here.
Okay, next up we have got Texas A&M visiting Arkansas. SEC Network, 8:00 Central, the same time. The model has got Texas A&M by a little bit over 3 points. It's got the Aggies with a 61% probability of victory. Look, throw out the computers. I don't have the words to express my disappointment with Arkansas. I broke up with Arkansas last week. It was very publicly, very messy. A&M, I was on the verge of breaking up with A&M, and they totally won me back with that Kentucky game. Guys, this is one of these in all seriousness. You can have analysis and everything. Something is broken with Arkansas. And I don't see this team beating a good team until Eric Musselman can pull the spare tires out, fix the engine, put some Freon back in the air conditioning, whatever. I can tell our man Blake is just poised with something good here. So he's going to get the mic next.
It may be time, guys. It may be time. It may be this point in the season where the bottom has completely fallen out for Arkansas. We thought it couldn't get any lower after that Auburn game. Well, it's gotten a little bit lower. But they're coming home to play a Texas A&M team that's as high as it's been all season long. After beating Kentucky in overtime, this may be the final spot for the Must Bus. Has been in the parking lot. It's been snowed under. But now the sunshine is coming out. The ice is melting away. The tires are ready to go. A little more tread. It may be time for the Must Bus to get back on the road here to be able to start making the trek to the NCAA tournament. But we'll see if one of you guys pick that to happen, because I'm sure not, because there's no way I can pick Arkansas to win this game because of what I've seen to this point. Texas A&M just came out with one of their best games of the season. I think that's exactly what they needed against Kentucky. Like we said, it's the Wade Taylor, Tyrese Radford combo. I know Wade Taylor's been inefficient at times, but when you have a guy that's playing like that, like the best player in the conference, he certainly can be. Just that combo going up against this Arkansas team that we've just seen way too inconsistent production from the guard group, but of course it's bigger than that. I'm halfway joking when I say I do think like this may be that spot for Arkansas. But the issue is we're making predictions based on what we've seen to this point. And to me, I don't know, like I've said over the past couple games, there's no reason I can possibly pick Arkansas based on what we're seeing right now. Even if I do think there could be that opportunity that this is where things, even if it's just for one game, I'm not saying this is going to change the whole season, but you've got to wonder if, again, the averages somehow come back to Arkansas here, even if they're not all the way in, whatever the deal is there. Possibly, maybe this is an opportunity, but I can't predict that to happen.
This one does not make sense to me because we're going to get a spread when the odds release. We're going to get a under 5. It's going to be 2, 3, 4 single digit spread. And I can tell you right now, the money is going to get blasted on Texas A&M. And that kind of scares me because you're going to have a public road favorite, which is just dangerous.
Oreo
knows. He's saying, "Watch out, guys." He smells it.
He's in the other room watching Arkansas basketball right now. That's the problem. That's why he's wailing like he's dying.
The thing, though. Like, is it a good spot for Arkansas? Like, speaking from betting terms, yes. But I can't even give an analysis. I don't know who's playing. I don't even know who's going to be on the court for Arkansas. And you know what? I think this is going to be a major piece in the game is Solo Washington's defense on Tremont Mark. I think that's going to be huge because if there's one guy that's been consistent for Arkansas, it's been Tremont Mark. And if there's one defender that Buzz Williams has sang the praise about lately, it's been Solo Washington and his length on the perimeter. So I think that's going to have a really big factor in this game. From a betting standpoint, it scares the crap out of me, but I cannot pick this Arkansas team. I can't do it.
Wait, did we just give Arkansas a win?
I don't even know if our powers can do that.
How many times have we all picked the team to win and they have gone out and lost when all of us did?
We all have our duty to the world. And if this is what we have to do to get Arkansas a win, we say that, but I don't know. We've all picked against them the past 2 games and that hadn't worked out. So I don't know how we could possibly think this could be, but I think there's something to this. Our computers, everything, like we know how bad it's been for Arkansas, but as I said, kind of about the Texas A&M game, I know I picked Kentucky, but we felt like that was the spot. Although this just has been different with Arkansas because they've not been competitive in some of these games. And so that's been the difference. I don't know though. It does not feel like the worst matchup, all things considered, for Arkansas. But you just don't know what you're getting from them. That's the problem.
If it happened, I'm to the point where throw all the stats and stuff out because Arkansas is so disinterested or whatever the word is. None of that stuff matters. But it to Blake's point, if this team shows up and they have a come to Jesus thing with Muss and the world is restored to normal order, we've talked about A&M's problems with shooting. I mean, it's been a team that hadn't shot well all year. I still remember that LSU game a couple of weeks ago. We're like, what am I even watching? This was supposed to be a pretty good offensive team, and they're struggling to get to 60 points. Really? There's a little bit of that there is a possibility, guys. But I'm still – look, if you're rooting for the league, you're rooting for A&M to win because A&M's a team that needs wins like this to get the NCAA tournament. I think it's going to be good enough ultimately, but it's no lock by any stretch. I think around 40s in the net. What?
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought, then I'm going to give you a wild stat.
Well, I was going to say if you're rooting for fun, root for Arkansas because my goodness, we're going to have some fun with this Wednesday morning if that happens.
Do you know how many times the Texas A&M Aggies have won at Bud Walton Arena since 1986?
0.
Once.
Woo! Wait, Bud Walton
They-
Arena wasn't around in 1986.
Oh, it was around, baby. It was still rocking.
In what universe?
Okay. I'm sorry. Do you know how many times they've won in Fayetteville, Arkansas since 1986?
When was that? Do you know what year it was?
Should
Once.
I care?
Once. A&M's
Once.
won there one time since 1986. Once. So everything we're saying adds up from a historical perspective. They won there once in 19 or not 19. They won there 2019. They won 87-80. Just saying. This may be the spot, but none of us are predicting it to happen based on what we see from Arkansas.
No shot. Taking A&M.
All right. Parting thoughts, gentlemen.
Aggies by triple digits. No, we'll see. This I know like this game feels like a complete afterthought based on everything else, but I'm telling you right now, we may look up and this may be the most interesting game on the board on Tuesday night. So
We'll see.
You're welcome, Arkansas.
Dude, we've done this twice to Arkansas the past two games. It made a bit of difference. So if it happens this time, it ain't going to be because of us. I'm just telling you.
Well, I still, the opener, we all picked Arkansas to win, and Auburn is still shooting layups in that one. But anyway. All right. That's been it for our predictions here at Southeastern 14. We'll be back to do the same on Wednesday's games. We'll be back on Wednesday to recap Tuesday's games, and then we'll do the same thing Thursday on Wednesday's games. Best way to get that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. For Max Barr and Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. This is Southeastern 14, presented by Bet Online.